Welcome back to another video. We have YoungBlood. Starting off with back issues, I got three different things here. Starting off though, we'll talk about issue 1. YoungBlood issue 1. This is the second printing, as you can see here. So it has this border. It's not too pretty, but I like the cover nonetheless. And what's interesting is that it's double-sided. So there's a cover also on this side. And on top of that, it's weirdly split up. So I was like, wait, which side do I start with? Okay, let's start with this side. Okay, yeah, that works. Okay, what about the other side? Is it like, is there two stories? Yeah, there's two stories, which is weird. So you're reading through this, and then once you get about halfway, the story's over, and you're like, oh, it's upside down? So then you got to flip it over and read from here to here. So it's odd that way. The first story was good enough for what it was. I'm not really going to talk too much about these because that's not really what this show's about. If I want to cover these in their own video, tell me if you want to hear me talk about them in their own video. But definitely colorful. Rob Liefeld's art is very Liefeld. You know, if you like his style, you like his style. If you don't, you don't. I certainly do. I think his he really has vibrant and bombastic artwork that jumps off the page. Everything feels so fluid, action-packed, and really keeps you turning the page. But that's only when the writing is minimal, because I think that he's really not that good of a writer. And I think that's the main problem, is that I think he should have the dialogue was also done by someone else as well, but he did some of the writing, right? Yeah, the plot. I think he should have only stuck with, this is the only thing of Rob Liefeld that I've read. These, I've actually have issue 2 that I read online. I don't have it physically. But these 4 YoungBlood issues are all that I've read of his writing, and it's just not good. I don't know, the art is really the standout here, and I think if you can't get behind the art, you're not going to enjoy reading this. And looking on League of Comic Geeks, it seems pretty mixed, and I've heard quite a few people don't like his artistic style. I really don't think that that's the problem for me personally. I understand why some people may not like it, but it's pretty bombastic, right? If you like what you see here, give it a shot, I guess. But there's a few things to keep in mind. If you're not totally sold on the art, don't give this a shot. Even for $1 that I got these for, I don't know if it'd be worth it if you really aren't into the art. I am, but I don't even though I am, I don't really know how much I'm going to want to pick how many more of these issues I'm actually going to want to pick up. And the things that you got to keep in mind is, even if you are sold on the art, it's just really clunkily written. There's so much goes on in these, since this was 2 backup stories, it felt really brief, especially with the somewhat the writing style, but mostly the artistry. It all felt very fast-paced, but the problem is there's just so much going on, so many different characters. You're introduced to the away team and the home team. What's it called? The away, it's like a sports terminology or something. The away team and the home team, yeah. And each team is filled with different characters, and then each character has their like side characters. So it's insane. You know, it's one thing to be a company like Marvel and have the Avengers and have all these different characters with their own books that all have their own stories that you have had followed up to that point. But on top of that, this reads like you're hopping into an Avengers, which I have. It's like reading an Avengers issue that's in the 200s or something, and not reading anything beforehand on any of the characters. That's what it would be like. And as a matter of fact, I've done that, and it's just as confusing, if not more confusing here, because of the way it's written. For a first issue and a first appearance of all these characters, it just isn't done well at all. Like I said, you're dealing with probably 16 different characters, 12 different characters, and it's just way too much. A lot of them are just clones of existing characters, which already makes them feel stale. But on top of that, more than just their powers being copies, oftentimes their attitudes and kind of personalities feel so one note. It kind of makes you wonder, well, why should I care to learn and try and swallow all that's being thrown at me? It's not even being thrown in a digestible way. So why on earth would I want to stick around and try and learn all these different characters about, and who's what everybody's allegiance is, and who their side characters all are, and how they're related, and what exactly their full moveset is, and so on. And on top of that, they keep throwing more characters at you every issue that goes by. There's a whole new team here that it's advertising in the back as a preview, and there's a lot of cool spreads and moments where you have to turn the page sideways to read. I like that a lot, and I really like the art. Those are all the pros, but ultimately the story just isn't good enough to I don't know, to really carry things enough where I want to continue that much further. But I don't know. I'm kind of mixed on that point where it's like, oh man, I really like the art and some of the fight scenes are really cool, but it's like, man, everything else in between is kind of clunky. So I think if you're really into the art and you find these for cheap, you can hop into it like me. But I think an important thing to keep in mind is that the story definitely might not be for you. And on top of that, also, it's really a messy book, right? I think that even as me, which I'm not I've read a number of things. Geez, I picked up a short box just like last week, and it's almost filled. So I have read quite a few comics, and there's even way more I've read digitally. And even then, I'm confused. I still consider myself a beginner, and I'm super confused. And it seems like no matter how much experience you have, you're going to be a little confused. But it seems like the more experience you have with teen books, the more experience you have with reading comics as a whole, and kind of the higher tolerance you have to quite a few plot threads going on at once, the more able you are to handle all that, the easier of a time you'll have reading this. So yeah, take that with what you will. I don't really have much else to say here, too much else to say, so I'll breeze through these. This is issue 3. I couldn't find issue 2, but I got these all for $1 though, which is even cheaper than cover price. So that's how you know you're doing good, when you get things cheaper than cover price. As you'll notice here, the colors really changed a lot, and that's because it's different paper quality. This is pretty smooth for the most part. The paper before wasn't cardstock, wasn't newsprint. It was actually like high quality paper that you'd get from like in like a real book. And what is the plot exactly? Well, there's multiple teams of super powerful, basically, there's different superhero teams. There's like the good guys kind of thing. Some of them kind of act in ways that aren't necessarily too good, so it kind of makes you wonder, hey, are they being used by the government? That's kind of what it seems to insinuate, but it doesn't actually dive far enough into it within these 4 issues for me to say. But it feels like, and the whole run isn't actually that long at all. I forget how many issues, so I'm not going to say, but I don't remember it being very long, or too long, so I'll just leave it at that without saying the number and screwing it up. But yeah, anyways, it's just overall very confusing, and certain elements like the fact that certain characters may not actually be good and may not be in it for the right reasons, may be kind of sadistic in ways. Certain things like that are cool ideas, but it seems like they aren't really following through with that, and it's been 4 issues, and that would be fine if there were other elements that made me want to keep reading, but there's not really enough to really do that, other than possibly the art. I don't know, it's kind of a weird situation where it's like, oh, maybe if I have nothing else to read and I find more of these for cheap, like $1 or so, I'll pick them up. I don't know, it's in that kind of weird position for me, and I really like the art. So for someone that doesn't really care for the art or is kind of mixed on it, I highly doubt you'll probably want to read these, even if you get them for real cheap, because again, the story is just so clunky. But yeah, that's that. And next up, with my final image pickup, we're moving into new stuff here. We got The Walking Dead issue 15. I really like that cover here. Here's the original cover. It's quite different than this. I really like this. I love the kind of red gradient sky. That's the word I was looking for. Gradient sky there. I love the kind of juxtaposition between the cross and the dead rising from the grave. It's kind of a tonal shift there, and I'm not really going to cover this because it's just kind of a pickup that I have, but violence, sex, and horror, what else can you, what else is better than that? And it looks as if things are continuing still in the prison, where they're stuck in the prison and holding out, basically. And that's about it. I'm not going to say too much. I'm like one issue behind this in terms of how much I'm caught up. I have so much else I'm reading. A lot of people die, it looks like. I don't know. You're going to have to read it to figure out. I don't know. I'm going to have to read it to figure out. Just wanted to show that off. But what I do have a lot to say about, or have a decent bit to say about, is Wonder Girl. I was looking forward to this series. Seems like a good hopping on point if you want to read Wonder Woman style comic, but instead of Wonder Woman, it's Wonder Girl. It's kind of like, it's part of the Infinite Frontiers thing, new possibilities, and it's basically a kind of a retelling, but more reimagining, I should say, reimagining of Wonder Woman's origins, but instead of Diana being an Amazonian, this woman is Brazilian, and she grows up with different heritage. Therefore, there's different types of mythologies, different kinds of weapons, different kinds of magic going on. And what do I think about it? Well, I'm going to read you what I wrote in my review on my League of Comic Geeks right now. Firstly, I like to say that cover looks even better in person. Exuberant, eye-catching, fierce, and a great encapsulation of the potential this series has. The problem is, I don't think the material inside does a good job at selling us on said potential. The opening of the comic gives us an exciting, compelling opening, all illustrated in a complex yet minimalist style. I do, however, feel like it could have used either more tonal or texture variation. The art as a whole is good, but I feel like aspects of it blend together, and panels don't visibly project as much detail as they could have, with a few more colors or more dynamic artistic techniques, something that complements the minimalism and uses the style to its advantage. Once the brief opening flashback comes to a close, the rest of the issue basically sets up the, setup. See the problem. There's a small bit of action and some dialogue. Some may even find it charming, but the piece ultimately falls short due to a lack of pacing and format awareness. For comic fans, this isn't as uncommon of an occurrence in the industry nowadays. Decompression is rampant, and it's mostly become expected. But no matter how you feel on that style, is wanting a basic idea of what's to come too much to ask for an issue 1? It's not as if the modern approach to graphical sequential storytelling can't allow for such a thing in 30 or so pages. Beta Ray Bill issue 1 is a recent example of how to do a first issue right. Examples such as this show us that it isn't needed, but at the very least, increase the page count and charge more. Sadly, despite my complaints, it seems as if this trend isn't going to go away, going to change in the current market, however, since we expect such a thing. I'm curious how well issues like this will fare when DC finally expands to the non-hardcore audience. Air quotes there, the everyday Walmart shopper and young adults looking to get into a new series. I have my doubts. Many of them will want to drop $4 the next month in order to learn if they should be reading a series. Cool cover though. Yeah, I kind of wonder in the future, and probably in the not so distant future, when DC opens the door and opens the floodgates and lets their issues into modern stores, when newsstands, so to speak, come back, and you'll see comics in Walmart and Target and things like that. I really don't think that's going to be too far from now, actually, but who knows? But if that happens, would an average person actually give a rat's and want to spend $4 more for an issue 2 just to figure out if they should be reading the series? An issue 1 should sell you on the series. I understand that these stories are being decompressed. I understand that it's not easy writing an issue 1, but this is a big series. This is a series that's supposed to be like Wonder Woman. It's supposed to grab those fans and new fans that are looking for something similar yet different. So it has even almost more, it has even more weight on its shoulders in a way. And I feel like the only reason DC and other companies are able to get away with having somewhat lackluster issue 1s, and why they're putting them out all the time, is because they don't see the gravity or understand the gravitas. Similar to the word gravity there. They don't understand the gravitas that issue 1s should have. Issue 1s should be the hook that gets you in. Issue 1s are supposed to be the opening to a big series that's supposed to kind of jet you into a franchise, a large scale series. But it doesn't feel like that anymore. It feels like nowadays this is just yet another example, another throw in the pond of issue 1s that give us the basic. No, this doesn't even give you the basic idea, but gives a lot of issue ones. Give you the very basic idea and don't even tell you everything. This is like that on steroids. This is like not even half of the premise. This is like a quarter of the premise. You figure out who Yara Flora is. She gets to a location, an event happens, so I don't spoil it, and that's it. That's it. Right? You figure out who she is, she gets to a location, something happens, and you're like, oh, I guess mystical water magic stuff is going to happen in the next issue. I don't know. It doesn't tell you. And I understand that this is, standing on the shoulders of a two-part, right, miniseries from before, but that's not how it was advertised. Just like the Batman thing, you can't tell me that because you can't tell me that I have to read crap before when you're not DC. It was marketed, DC put out in the solicitations that this is a jumping on point, this is an issue 1, this is a new start, all that crap. If that's true, then I shouldn't have to read previous things, especially for a new character, to figure it out. Maybe if I read issue 1 and 2 of the back of the of back issues, if I read the 2 previous issues that are part of the miniseries that lead up to this, maybe I'll figure it out. But like, I kind of doubt that it will tell me enough where I'm going to be like, oh wow, this magical blue crap at the end of this issue. I'm not going to spoil it, but that's somewhat spoilers. Is that spoilers? I don't know. I'm not going to figure it out, right? It doesn't seem like I would. So I don't know. It's just not good in that sense. But do I want to read issue 2? Oh, hell yeah. I mean, it seems like something I'm interested in. It still has that. I'm still excited, but I'm only excited because of what I know surrounding the character. If I was a random Joe Schmo, if I was, Billy Adams, some random name, Joe Bob Rickety Pants in Walmart, and picked this up and read this, I would have been like, this isn't like Wonder Woman. I mean, this isn't action-packed. This isn't grabbing my attention. I'm not going to buy issue 2. But because I'm a comic book person, I guess I'm kind of starting to get used to this kind of crap, and I'm going to buy an issue 2. And I feel like that shouldn't be that it shouldn't be, right? It shouldn't be like that, but it is. And it wasn't bad at all, but it just feels like I'm only excited. Wow, okay, let's get to issue 2, because I wasn't given enough in issue 1, because I was only given a very little tease, a scent of an idea, and that's my problem. So yeah, those are my thoughts. We got the Batman and Scooby-Doo Mysteries. This is more my speed. No, not necessarily, but I enjoyed it. I was going to pick this up originally. This came out last month sometime. Was it like beginning of April? Something like that. 12-part limited series. Wow, limited series, it's actually like a decent number of issues. Isn't like 4 issues or 5 issues? 12. Wow. They all seem, so far, the first 2, because there's only been 2 that have come out so far, and I picked up both of them, and I'll show you the second one in a bit. And they both seem to be anthologies, so I don't know if all of them will be anthologies or what, but this one basically focuses on Batman's gloves go missing, his purple gloves, and the Scooby Gang has to travel back in time to basically find his purple gloves. And these purple gloves were actually the gloves that the Golden Age Batman used, so that's kind of a cool callback, and you get to see the different suits, Batman suits, throughout the years. Some of these, that one looks fake, but supposedly I think it's real. I'll put something on screen if I'm wrong. I think it's real. I'll put something confirming that. But yeah, it's cool to see the different Batman suits there, little references in the background, things like that. And those gloves are another reference. Once again, this whole thing is just a love letter to Batman. And being that I read Year One not that long ago, a few months ago, this basically takes place, the time period that they travel back to is Year One. From, locations that they travel to, which, I mean, they're locations that are in normal Batman stories, so I shouldn't say that, but you get the point. The color scheme and where they travel to is exactly from Year One, so that's pretty cool. And, although the art style is kind of cheap looking in my opinion, I think that the imaginative story and the time travel plot really lends well to this mashup, and works great. That's not necessarily the case for issue 2, which I'll get to, but for issue 1, that's the case. And again, I think the art is really kind of the weak point, the weak link in the chain, but it's not enough to fully, make this piece of armor fall apart. Let's just say, link in the chain did that work? It's not gonna. The fence isn't gonna. The fence is still strong enough overall, and I'd say it's worth reading if you're looking for a lighthearted read of Batman and Scooby-Doo. That's what you get. I think really my one complaint beyond the art is kind of indicative to what it is, but it's a little too simple for me, right? I was thinking, oh man, time travel. There's so much missed potential there. They could have done so much more with it, but it's only like a 20-something page comic and only $3 cheaper than what used to be your average price. Now DC is charging $5 and $6 for things, so $3 seems quite cheap, but in comparison, which it's not exactly, but I'd say it was definitely worth it. But I think that more than just missing potential, but at the same time, it's just one issue, so that's not really a problem, I guess. I also think that there's obvious plot holes that pop up, and some of them that they even kind of mention, but at the same time, it's a kid's comic, so I don't know what I expect. I don't know what I expect. Jeez, it's not realistic. Batman issue 2, Batman and Scooby-Doo Mysteries issue 2, I should say, wasn't as good. It was good. I just finished reading it literally right before recording this, but the art takes a little bit of a step down, in my opinion. I think the lighting isn't necessarily as dynamic, and it feels like there's actual shadow work here. This felt a lot flatter and more kind of like a cartoon that you'd see on Cartoon Network nowadays, compared to this feels more like it has higher production values, if anything. And there was more white space used in things in this that I kind of would have wanted, stuff like that kind of, the art in the original issue here wasn't in the first issue wasn't that good, but it's even worse. And the plot I didn't think was as good either, but the plot was good for what it was, and overall it's not really that big of a step down at all. So if you liked issue 1, read issue 2, but that's the nice thing, you don't have to. They've been single. I don't know why I said anthologies before. They're single stories so far, and it seems like that's the path they're going. Maybe they won't later. I don't know. It's only 2 issues in, but the third story seems like, that I read from solicitations, doesn't look like it's going to be multiple parts. I don't know. Anyways, so yeah, that's that. Batman Scooby-Doo, the Batcave, basically the brief story here. Don't want to really get too far into it. Don't know if there's really spoilers, but you don't really need to know much else. But basically the plot is that the Joker has hidden a object, and it's taken back to the Batcave and has a tracker, and he's gonna get him. Basically, he's gonna figure out Batman's secret identity, and yeah, that's that. Not bad at all. Not as good as issue 1, but both fun for what they are. They're fun, short little reads. I wish they were cheaper, but at the same time, I think I definitely probably got my money's worth still. And yeah, that's that. It is what it is. This week was really good for covers. This cover I really like. I mean, I love the dynamic skies, the cityscape being kind of silhouetted, and so much detail in the forefront on Elektra here, and the way her hair flows is great, and the small details down here, and kind of the dust particles and things, steam or whatever floating through the air there. Very pretty. And my complaint with issue 29, this is issue 30, my complaint with issue 29 was that things really didn't get going, and that it felt like after the King Black tie-in, that the King Black tie-in curse, if you read the description, inversely, the King Black tie-in kind of really slowed down the progression of this series, and I still was enjoying it, but it feels like issue 29 was probably the lowest point the series has hit probably. Yeah, I'd say so. And that's a little too bad, but it was still enjoyable. And that just shows you how enjoyable the series is. It was still definitely enjoyable. And the series, has been one of my favorite series I've read, period, in comic books. And this is really picking up steam. I don't know if it's exactly where it was. No, I know it's not. It's not at the same point. Climax and like excitement wise, it's not as you know boisterous and as exciting as it was, maybe 6 to 10 issues ago. Definitely 10 issues ago. But even like 6 issues ago, it was more interesting. It's still a bit more slow than I think I think we should be further in the plot than we are now. But it really picked up. Like this feels like we just jumped forward, 4 issues instead of just one between issues 29 and 30 here. The art is done by that secondary artist, once again, not the primary artist here, which is a little bit too bad. Oh no, he does some of the art. That was it. Yeah, he does some of the art. Some of the art's done by the secondary artist, and I kind of didn't like that. But at the same time, the secondary artist still has his own prose. He does he's really good at coloring, and the other guy, don't know either of their names, doesn't really matter. The other primary artist that does majority of these, he's a lot better at detail. So even though this isn't as detailed in a lot of aspects, he did some of the art, supposedly from the credits there. But he did some of the art, but nonetheless, the color work is top notch. The detail is a little less than last issue, 29, but still good for sure. And things just keep picking up in action. Elektra is hot on the trail of developments that are going on in Hell's Kitchen. Daredevil has consumed a poison in the last issue, and he's dealing with the fallout of that, but he's also given a chance to get out of prison and wipe his slate clean in a way that he may like, that he may actually agree with his kind of moral standards. It may hold up to his moral standards, and that's cool. There's some crazy fights and things that go on with Elektra and kind of the plot that she's following, and basically the trail that she's following that is being left behind by the madness that's starting to re-erupt, I should say, in Hell's Kitchen, and is caused by a new player in the game that is that's been a new player, let's just put it that way, and it's really good. Things are heating up. Hell's Kitchen is I'll show you that. That's really cool too. Hell's Kitchen is, boiling back up again, and things are re-erupting, and that's really cool to see, because the dust has been settled for quite a while, a number of issues, and it's nice to see things are stirring back up again, and there's some real heavy developments that are happening. Again, I think that we should be a little further in terms of it's like issue 24 was the last time we had, 25 was the last time we had major developments. It took like 5 issues until we got to this point. Feels like we should have already been to this point, but we're close to a good point, right? We're close to where we should be, and I really liked how far this threw us forward. Like, again, from 20, I reread 29 right before reading this, and it was like 29 to this, it was like such a big jump. I liked it quite a bit. Issue 1 of Shang-Chi. This had a miniseries that came before it, just like Wonder Girl, and this was better than I expected. This, I was thinking, is this just going to be another one of series by Marvel that I'm going to be like, oh man, another issue 1 by Marvel, I should say, that I'm just not going to like, or not going to like that much, and just I'm going to buy issue 2, buy issue 3, and then fall off again, like Nonstop Spider-Man, or like the Marvels. I'm thinking about dropping the Marvels. Is it going to be kind of wishy-washy where I'm going to follow it but not be, 100% sure if I should, like I am with Alien right now? What are we talking about is going to be like that, or some of the DC issue ones that I've been reading? No, this was like surprisingly good. This wasn't like stand out, but this was surprisingly good for an issue 1. It sets up quite a bit. It's a bit confusing because I didn't read the past like 2 or 3, 4 issues. I forget. I think it's 2 issues. I don't know though. I don't know. Miniseries that came before this, a little confusing. I wish they would have included a little bit more details to kind of fill people in that hadn't read those, but for someone that hadn't read those and going off of Wonder Girl I expected to like a lot more. This I expected to not like that much, but I wanted to give it a shot just because I'm like, but it's an interesting concept and the movie's coming out. Should I read it? Yes, I should read it, and you should too. It's not fantastic, but it really, really has some interesting plot developments going on, talking about basically different themes involving family and, how you can't pick your family, you can pick your friends type of thing. But even though, since you can't pick your family, how does the people that you're tied with, how do family ties, can you really ever truly separate yourself from those that are within your blood, if that makes sense? Can you truly ever separate yourself from, those that created you, those that raised you? And are you destined to follow a similar path to the world that you grew up in, to your childhood, the things that happened to you? Are you destined to kind of repeat and fall into whatever traps or pitfalls that were ingrained within you mentally by your parents? And I really think that that's a great concept. I think that there's a lot that can be done with that, and I feel like they're doing that here. And it's not 100%, right? It's not 100% landing, but it's an 80% landing, I think. I think there's 20%, maybe 25% that they could have done more with this, but it's really solid for what it is. Almost gave it 4 stars. I think I might just give it 4 stars on League of Comic Geeks. I might, when I get issue 2 or issue 3, I might go back and reread this, and it might go up to a 4 stars. It was quite good. Not great, again. There's a few things, but it's quite good. And I think the art is probably something that I'm more mixed on, but unlike other series, it didn't really get in the way, and I kind of ignored the art and really got into the story itself. I mean, art is subjective, of course, but I like the kind of the roughness of it and kind of the watercolor pastel look of it, but I think it's just too simple and lacking detail. I understand that it's it's kind of the artistic style that they're going for, but you can have things be pastel and kind of watercolor looking and kind of blurred without having it where there's there's obviously white panels throughout, or there's some panels that are like 2 colors and like barely any black, and black outlines, and that kind of stuff is what I'm talking about, where it's like, where I've heard people talk about that. I'm not going to say what. But basically, some people on Reddit have complained about me, saying I dislike art. And it's one thing, it's subjective. And the next thing is like, it's personal. And my personal thing is that I wish there was more detail. I 100% understand that it's the artistic, style that they're going for, but personally, I don't know if I like it necessarily. I think there could be more detail. Like, I don't think that they should just have like super complex and filled backgrounds, but having some more line work, having some more blots there would be nice, especially with the white backgrounds, right? Why can't you add something there? Add a few colors, something, nothing there. You can't add a few more little details here. It's just going to be green blobs and green kind of, pastel, whatever colors floating in the background. I mean, that's okay, but little more effort put into it would be nice. A little more detail. I'm not asking for like Picasso level visuals, but again, leaving blank space. You come on, fill in some of those blank voids. Some of those shots, panels that are only 1 or 2 colors. Like, add a little bit more, at least. I mean, I don't know. Whatever. I enjoyed it. A lot. I showed off a lot of different stuff here. Some good, some decent, some not so good. Young and old audiences alike. Content for young and old audiences alike. Back issues. So tell me what you thought in the comments below. Should I cut out back issues? Should I talk about certain things for longer, certain things for shorter? Should I do videos on certain things on their own? What did you think? What did you like? What did you not like? Tell me in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching, and aloha.